I would like to preface this complaint by explaining that very recently my husband and I have fallen upon slightly harder times than usual. He had wanted to stock a trout pond in our lovely villa in the mountains, and unfortunately one thing led to another. We forgot about the trout pond, and it filled in a very rainy spring, and as it turned out, broke through some of the barriers at the edge of the pond, which resulted in a large quantity of water and trout running downstream and, well, for want of a better word, flooding a village. Which is very disappointing because that village provided us with a lot of the servants for our villa in the hills, which we probably will not be going to any longer. Anyway, a lot of time and money was spent trying to repair and, of course, restock all those trout. So this year, we do not have a lot of extra money to spend on Christmas toys for our lovely daughter, and we were told about a wonderful toy store. We were sorely disappointed. I plan to Yelp this as soon as this is over. And by Yelp, I mean it's a sort of writing in a journal which we send out. It's very interesting, you know, being the 19th century, these things, they move rather slowly, but still, we're Yelping. And this is what I have to say. First of all, the place is infested with bugs and farm animals in a toy store. We enter, and I find a small bear in the center of the floor. I could see the small vermin leaping off him as my daughter went, of course, to touch the furry beast. It was offensive. It was foul. It had an odd smell. And this gentleman, this purveyor of toys, was extremely insistent on us purchasing this bear. I must tell you, I found his behavior rather forward. Anyway, we moved my daughter aside. I made sure that she was free of ticks and fleas. And the next thing I know, he's escorting us to a bench, which is slightly greasy in texture. I don't know what he's had on it before, but honestly, I'm going to have to check my clothing and find some servants to actually clean off the back of this skirt, you know, although we don't have as many left after the loss of that village. Anyhow, we waited, and he came out with something that was quite arresting. It was a sort of a clown-type creature with a very stern face. There were two of them, in fact. I found them eerie and incredibly unsuited to a child's toy. My husband seemed to think that the legs were rather entertaining. I myself found them a little bit inappropriate. Anyway, he tried to foist those two dolls off on us, which I find to be extremely inappropriate, considering the fact that that's two instead of one. He was trying to sell us two. I could see what he was doing. We shooed them away, and next he came up with, oh, what was it? Oh, my goodness. Tinnitus is all I can say, because once those, what are those, tambourines? I don't know what they're called. A group of young creatures came out banging and banging and banging, shaking little bells. It was destroying I had to pull small pieces of fluff off my daughter's very, very expensive muff, and she only has one left because we've lost all of those servants, and I had to stuff some of the stuffing from the muff right into her ears. I was genuinely afraid that she would lose hearing for who knows what part of the foreseeable future. So I told him to take them away right now. I find them offensive. Plus, I also think that they are culturally appropriative. Next, what was it that we, some sort of, I hate to use the word ménage à trois, but there were two girls and a boy, I believe. I wasn't sure. Tiny little mustache. The girls didn't smile at all. There was a lot of kissing and hand-holding, and I simply think that those dolls are too mature, again, for a child of my age and delicate constitution. She hasn't been well since the loss of that trout pond. We try to be careful with her. I asked him to please say, we can't afford 3 dolls. Who purchases 3 dolls, I ask you? So I had him send those away, and the next thing I know, there is some sort of Eastern European nesting doll fiasco, which involved a sword, an actual sword in the hand of some sort of Cossack. Well, that thing scrambled all over the stage, waving that thing. I almost lost an eye. And then this monstrous little boy who was sitting on his, I could smell him from across the room. I don't care how nicely his parents were. He comes out pushing and he grabs the sword. My little angel is absolutely in peril. And of course, my husband does nothing. He too has been a little bit under the weather since the loss of the trout pond. More on that later. We sent them away. Hopefully, you know, they're somewhere where they can't stab anybody to death. And the next thing I know, there is a live dog in the room. A small, yappy, wiggly dog who clearly has not been well groomed. He's got a little puff on the tail, the ears look shaggy, and he's ill-tempered. Now, everybody knows I have allergies. I can't have a dog in my house. We know that. And yet he brings that dog out there and parades it in front of my child who wants a dog so terribly badly, but we simply can't have one. I have given her many, many trout, but there are no trout these days. We lost them all, and so she's looking for a dog. Well, I said, you get that dog out of here. We don't know if he's had his shots. Take him away. And so he did, but I'm not sure where that dog went, actually. It could be anywhere. Finally, he brings out the most delightful little shepherdess. I mean, she is a delight, searching here, searching there for her lost sheep. And I am telling you, I was quite moved by that. We thought, you know what? This is the one. This is the one. We're going to buy it for our girl. And as soon as we decide that that is the choice we are to make, from somewhere in the back of this filthy little store come several small sheep. That's right, farm animals, dropping their little sheep droppings all around us and I don't know if sheep bite. I got up onto a stool and cowered for my life as they ran about the room completely unfettered. At this point, I really had no idea what was coming next, and to be honest, I was ready to leave. But then a couple of dolls did come out, and they were quite charming, a can-can routine. She did do a little bit of suggestive skirt waving, and I said, you know what, that's fine, we'll move on, because, well, the male doll, I think he was looking at me. I know that sounds silly, but honestly, he winked at me. So we said, we'll take two. And the next thing I know, this parvenu in a military hat decides that he wants the dolls too. And after much haggling, which I found to be really rather low class, a decision was made that I take one doll and he take the other. I found that an insufficient solution to the problem, and yet I had no choice but to say yes. Well, we came back the next day to get our dolls, and the strangest thing happened. I could swear that all of the dolls were in some way animated. Now, I know that people might find that appealing, but I can assure you, when you are being torn apart by a horde of sword-wielding, sheep-carrying, dog-biting, can-can dancers, what is one to do? They took my hat! They took my hat! And I must tell you, since my last bout of yellow fever, I have a bald spot on the back, and I work very hard to keep that hat on tight. Well, my husband came over. None too soon, thank you very much, cowering in his shoes, the little coward, and took me, and I said, that's enough of that. We do not need a doll, not this year, not on your life. And I will tell you what, I am going home, and I am getting out my quill and my ink bottle, and I am going to yelp my feelings about this establishment. I find it offensive. And if you look online, as they say, which essentially just means a lot of scrolls of parchment, you will see my report. I give them 1 star out of 8. They deserve nothing more. Now I am going to return to our villa, and I am going to think very carefully about where we can get some more trout. Thank you. My name is Christine Marshall, and on behalf of Maine State Ballet, we welcome you to join us for the Magic Toy Shop, October 6th through 14th here at Maine State Ballet.